Escape from New York, a novel by Mike McQuay, based upon a screenplay by John Carpenter and Nick Castle. Suicide mission. "It's the president we're talking about," spat the secretary. "Trapped in that hell pit called New York. If we don't get him out, it could mean all-out war." "What do you mean?" asked Hawk. "There's a briefcase cuffed to his wrist that holds a cassette. The cassette talks about a powerful new bomb. A fusion bomb that—" "Never mind," Hawk snapped. "How long have we got?" "Less than 24 hours, the secretary answered. "We could never get in there with troops," said Hawk, pacing. "But one person could get in unnoticed." "Who?" "We've got a prisoner here named Plissken. Snake Plissken." Chapter 1. Bank of the United States, Colorado Federal Reserve. October 21st, 1997. 3:35 p. He was a cat. He was an iron bar fistload in a hard right hand. He was rough like a chisel and relentless as a jackhammer. He was Snake Plissken, and he was running for all he was worth. The hallway stretched out long and dark before him. Neon script crawled the walls in patterns as complex as spider webs. Dizzying patterns. Insane patterns. Symptoms of the nerve gas madness that dipped out of the sky to touch everyone's life from time to time. Plissken wasn't crazy thought. He was motivated. His feet slapped the fake marble floors, echoed hollowly back down the hallway behind him, and he pulled the blue satchel that he carried a little closer to his chest. Just a few minutes more. He was almost safe. His bad eye throbbed under its black shiny patch, shooting tentacles of pain back through his head, inflaming his brain straight down through his spinal column. But that was okay. The pain was always there, reminding him, pulling his still, youthful face into a tight-lipped grimace that made most people leave him alone. And Snake Plissken liked that just fine. The hallway branched off like a T. Plissken hit the blank wall, arms up, and bounded off down the right fork. Then he heard sounds up ahead and immediately slowed his pace, looking for cover. He stopped, head darting, good eye straining against the blackness of the corridor. The sounds were getting closer. He caught sight of an open doorway 10 paces ahead and approached it as quietly as he could. He gave it a couple of seconds by the open space, listening. Hearing nothing human, he ducked inside. It was a computer room, webbed crazily with neon. Chirping, chattering machines piled the place full like a maze. They clicked and whirred and worked their little hearts out. The room was a mausoleum without life. It ran itself and left the flesh and blood folks out in the cold. The bank didn't mind the gas or the war, or even Snake Plissken for that matter. The bank just went on, while everything else fell to pieces around it. It didn't care. It didn't give a holy goddamn in hell. The noise in the corridor was very close. Plissken ducked down behind a market quotations teletype and held his breath. His brown maintenance uniform with Colorado Solar stitched across the breast pocket was bunching tight around his neck. He tore open the top few snaps. The sound was right by him. It seemed to be creaking, moving past his position. He stayed as flat as he could against the machine, only daring a look after the sound had gone past. It was a trolley, a miniature stainless steel trolley, with speakers mounted on the side. It began to talk. "Attention. Banking hours are over. Lockup begins in 30 seconds. All personnel must leave the blue-coated areas immediately. Thank you. Plissken stood up, hugging his satchel to his chest once again, and watched the little machine chug off down the aisle and out a far door. The thing had a female voice. Pleasant. Sexy. He waved to it as it went. He didn't worry about the message. It wasn't meant for him. His hair was beginning to spill out from under the maintenance cap that completed his disguise. He stuck it back under and moved quickly through the room, following in the wake of the trolley. Once he was through the computer room, he found himself back in the hall. It was time to get going. He began looking for a man-trap, his passkey to the outside. He ran along the halls until he found one. Cold steel. It sat unornamented at the end of one hall. Dropping his satchel, Plissken leaned down and glared his good eye into the ID slot. Reaching into the pocket of his uniform, he pulled out a small screwdriver with the elongated tip that Bill Taylor called the slot prick. Looking once down the hall, he slipped the driver into the slot, and the door sprang open. Stepping inside, he found himself in a small cubicle. The door slammed closed behind him. It had no slot on his side. He turned to the other wall and found the other door. The pressure was building within him as he fumbled with the driver. But he didn't mind the pressure. It made him feel real. Uncle had taught him about pressure at Leningrad, and now he had Freon his veins. Freon and antifreeze. He was kept alive by a gut furnace of hatred that burned deep and steady inside, that was always pushing that pressure dial into the red, threatening to consume him at any second. The driver found the terminal, and the door clicked open. Plissken stood there just long enough to make sure the hallway was clear. Then he took off running. He didn't notice the tiny wall camera that followed his movements like a mongoose with a cobra. He ran hard, lungs controlled, not yet winded. Light hazed at the end of the corridor. It was the fuzzy light of the main chamber that would usher him to the Vaders, then to the roof and freedom. He pumped a little harder. Then the world came apart around him. The lightning turned deep red, the color of blood, pulsing in unison with the throb of his bad eye. The alarm horns began clanging loudly, filling the hallway to monkey house clamor, jingling the senses. Plissken didn't even slow down. He was locked on now, moving for the light, wishing he wasn't wearing that bulky unfirm over his fatigues. The hallway began to fill from the floor up with a light blue mist. Gas. Always gas. Plissken covered his mouth and nose with his large hand and kept running. The bells were pounding at him now, overpowering, trying to drive the thoughts right out of his mind. But he was Snake Plissken, and it would take more than a little sound and a little nerve gas to slow him down. It would take some big, mean son of a bitch with a riot gun at point-blank range. He broke through the hallway and into the lobby. Straight steel and glass, 2 stories tall, a cold and dead cocoon. There were cameras everywhere, and they all rotated to study him as he hurried through their domain. The chisel-rough man with one eye, just like them. Tearing at the snaps of his disguise, Plissken raced towards the Vaders at the far end of the room. His teeth were clenched with the eye pain, and the alarm sounds that stuffed his head full like a piñata. He skidded up to the Vaders, crashing into one that had roof exit written across its sliding panels. Punching the button, he threw the satchel in when the doors slid open. He jumped in after, already pulling the overalls off his shoulders. The doors closed, toning down the alarm to a muffled clicking. He hit the roof button, and the machine started up. His breath was coming shallowly as he tore off the rest of the uniform and tossed it away from him onto the ground. He pulled off the cap, and his hair sprang free. spilling almost down to his shoulders. The floor indicator lights eased slowly up the wall grid. Plissken was tensed like a bowstring with the waiting, but he knew that he needed time to get his breath back. He began to take in air more deeply, steeling himself, calming. He picked up the satchel from the floor and tucked it securely under his arm. The Vader shuddered to a stop. There was a second's pause. Then the door slid open to blinding light. Squinting, he charged through the opening. The first wave of heat hit him as soon as he was out the Vader's protective shell. He opened his eye full. The Colorado desert stretched out wide and empty all around him. Yellow sand reflecting afternoon heat, carpeting to the distant mountains. The Vader doors slammed shut behind him, and the sound made him start, spinning quickly. He went around full circle. No blackbellies. Good. The slash of his lips tightened into a grin. The transfer station was set off to his left, its concrete pillbox shining hotly in the afternoon glare. The sun was stoking up good today, turning the gas-soaked atmosphere a pale shade of lavender. Plissken broke for the station, the driver back out and ready in his hand. He kicked high as he ran, trying to keep his footing on the uneven ground. A fine spray of sand arced out from his feet with every step. He turned once to glance back at the Vader box, the only outward sign of the bank building beneath. No one was coming yet. He was still in good shape. He got up the massive bunker door and jammed the driver into the ID slot. Nothing. "Damn!" Plissken whispered. He took it out and plunged it in again, jiggling the handle. It didn't budge. "Come on, honey," he coaxed. "Just for me." He looked back at the distant Vader. The outer doors were beginning to slide open. He jerked his head back to the slot. Stepping back a pace, he took a deep breath, then kicked out viciously with the heel of a jungle-booted foot. He forced the driver into the slot mechanism, up to the handle. The machine sparked for a few seconds, then groaned open with a hydraulic hum. Plissken moved inside and got the door shut just as the first blackbelly emerged from the bank Vader. He hurried the heavy door closed, then jammed the driver into the space between the door and the frame to freeze it up. Safe. For a while. The inside of the transfer station was dark and cool. A soft blue illuminated arrow pointed down the stairs to the platform. Plissken navigated the stairs. They were glowing gently from the luminescence of several tiny wink lights inset within. As he reached the bottom step, he could hear the blackbellies pounding on the outer door. They'd get through eventually, but it would take time. The transfer bunkers were designed to withstand assault. The platform was quiet and empty. It was lit to a soft yellow vapor haze and seemed to stretch out forever. Plissken walked easily across the concrete floor, moving for the destination panel. The panel was set in an alcove near the foot of the stairs. He moved within and checked the big board. The lights moved sequentially across a stationary grid and showed the closest Hummers and their terminals. There was a Hummer moving online to Eugene, Oregon, that would reach the station soon. He punched up those coordinates on the machine, then shoved the credit disk of one George Merope into the slot. He had absolutely no intention of taking the Eugene Hummer, but punched it up because that's what they'd figure him to do. The war was still being fought heavily in the West, which left a lot of the Badlands for people like Plissken to lose themselves in. And west he would go, but not right away. After the Eugene transaction had rung up green on the viewer, Plissken punched up the Atlanta coordinates and bought the trip with Linda Milford's card. Bill Taylor was waiting in Atlanta, and he'd take care of their western connections. Plissken moved back out on the platform, standing by the eastern tubes. The tubes were thick plastic, nearly opaque. Occasionally, A Hummer would swish through, pinging on the internal tube rings, showing up on the outside as a speeding band of bright light. Then it would get quiet again. The tubes were a rich man's conveyance, and that very exclusive club got smaller and smaller all the time. A Hummer screeched to a stop on the other side of the platform, the westbound side. The Eugene Express. Plissken turned to watch it. A section of the tube slid away, and a pleasant but authoritative male voice said, "Eugene, Portland, Salem, and points west. All aboard, please." There was silence for a minute, then the message was repeated. The Hummer stayed around for a while longer. Then the doors slid quietly closed, and the machine pinged away. Plissken figured that the Blackbellies would trace that one. He hoped that they'd leave the next one alone. It wasn't 5 minutes before the Atlanta transfer came along. Plissken boarded gratefully and sat himself down in the soft, white G-seat in his very own compartment. Plissken always traveled first class. He figured that Linda Milford could afford it. Quiet music drifted gently down from somewhere, and the computer spoke to him. "Going to Atlanta?" it asked. "Yes," he answered, leaning his head back against the seat. "Atlanta. Fasten your seatbelt, please." Plissken fastened his seatbelt, but not too much. "Oh, come now," the machine said. "You can do better than that." Plissken did better. "That's good. We'll be underway in a matter of seconds. After acceleration, can we get you a drink?" Snake Plissken watched the wall close up around him. "Yes," he replied. "A drink would be nice. Make it a double."